Gon didn't lose his Nen powers when he was healed by Iruka. In fact, he gained the chance to come back even stronger. Hello aspiring hunters, welcome to the Hunter Experience. Today I will tell you how and why Gon Freeksis will regain his ability to use Nen in the anime Hunter x Hunter. But first, let's understand simply how he lost that power. One of the most striking moments in the anime is when Gon finally sees with his own eyes what happened to Kaido, who was like a teacher and a very dear friend to him. Unfortunately, Kaido was attacked and killed by a very powerful villain named Pitou. At this point in the story, many were wondering, how is Gon going to defeat such a strong enemy like Pitou? Spoiler, he wasn't strong enough to defeat her, but in his desperation to avenge his friend Kaido, Gon did something very dangerous. He used all his strength and Nen power at once, which almost destroyed him. This sacrifice was so great that in addition to losing his Nen power, it seemed like he had also lost the chance to be happy again. But thanks to Iruka's help, Gon not only survived, but also gained a new chance to become even stronger in the future. If you're prepared for the incredible Hunter journey, click like and subscribe to the channel to join our troop. Don't forget to comment on who your favorite character is in Hunter x Hunter. Now let's continue with this incredible story. In Hunter x Hunter, there is an idea called Nen Contract, which is like someone making a very serious promise to themselves. An example of this is Kurapika, who uses magical chains as part of the contract he made with his own heart. These contracts work in a simple way, with 3 parts. Action. This is the special power the person wants to have. Restriction. This is something important the person promises to give up or something they cannot do. Consequence. This is what bad thing happens if the person breaks that promise. Normally, a person makes this kind of contract when they are feeling very strong emotions, like anger, sadness, or determination. They decide to give up something very valuable to achieve their goal. For example, imagine someone makes a contract saying, I will get 1 million subscribers on my channel, but in exchange, I can never read a manga again. If I break this promise and read a manga, my channel will be deleted. The harder the restriction and the more serious the consequence, the greater the power the person can gain. In Kurapika's case, he made a contract with his chains called Chain Jail. This power allows him to capture someone and prevent that person from using their Nen powers. The chain is practically impossible to destroy, but there is a very serious condition. Kurapika can only use this power against members of the Phantom Troop, a very dangerous group. If he tries to use his chains on anyone else, the consequence will be that another chain he placed around his heart, called Judgment Chain, will end up killing him. Thus, Kurapika made a very risky contract that gave him very strong power. The more dangerous the promise, the greater the power. And you might be wondering, but what does this have to do with Gon? The answer is quite simple. He also made an end contract even without fully understanding what that meant. When Gon became very angry and filled with hatred because of Pitou, he knew he had no chance of winning. But he was so determined to take revenge that he made an agreement with himself. He was willing to lose his own life if he had even the slightest chance to defeat her. That's how he created his contract. In this contract, Gon gained, for a brief moment, the power to destroy Pitou, who was one of the most powerful Chimera ants. He wanted to do to her what she had done to his friend Kaido. He was willing to accept any kind of consequence if he could have that power, and that's how Gon Adult emerged, where his Nen transformed into an incredible and fierce power. Many people thought Gon should die for gaining such strong power, and that the consequence of being unable to use Nen anymore wasn't enough. But what happened was different. In my opinion, the immediate consequence for Gon wasn't death or the inability to use Nen. What really happened was that he became trapped in eternal suffering. Gon's body became very damaged, and he was constantly injuring himself, even while in the hospital. This was the worst consequence he could have faced. Instead of simply being unable to use his power anymore, he ended up living in immense pain, which is something truly sad and hard to bear. But as you already know, Killua managed to save Gon with the help of Iruka's power, which has a special connection to one of the calamities called Nanika. Nanika is a being that came from a mysterious place called the Dark Continent, and at some point, she entered Iruka, gaining some incredible abilities, like the ability to grant wishes. So Killua made a request to Nanika. He asked her to heal Gon. With that, Gon was freed from the situation he was in because of the power he had used. He was completely healed, but at the same time, he could no longer use his Nen. At that moment, we can imagine that everything that was wrong with his body was fixed, including the Nen nodes that had been forcibly opened in Gon's body. This means that, despite being healed, Gon can no longer use his special abilities. And this is an important part of his story. In the end, even Ging said that no one can truly lose their Nen, and if we think about it, that makes perfect sense. Nen is a technique, a skill that people can use, and the energy behind it is called life energy. This life energy is what keeps us alive, and vital comes from the word life. So, if you are alive, it means you have this life energy. And if you have life energy, you can use Nen. But while no one can lose that energy, the ability to use Nen can be blocked. It's like you have a path that leads to your energy, and that path can be forcibly closed. This happened to a character named Chrollo Lucilfer, who is a master of Nen. Chrollo needed the help of a Nen exorcist to remove the effects of Kurapika's power, which prevented him from using Nen. This is somewhat similar to what happened to Gon, but it might be easier to resolve. If Nanika only healed Gon's Nen nodes, he could simply reopen those nodes again, either by meditating or forcing them open, as he did before. On the other hand, if Gon's Nen was truly sealed, he wouldn't need a Nen exorcist. In that case, it would be his own life energy that would be preventing him from using Nen, because the Nen contract is something the person makes with themselves. Thus, Gon might need to find a way to bypass this sealing that occurred due to the Nen contract. Many Nen contracts, especially those of lower levels, only block a person's Nen. Kurapika, for instance, traded his ability to use his Nen for his own life. In Gon's case, as I mentioned before, he was undergoing immense suffering, but now he has only had his Nen sealed. This is something that happens quite frequently, so there probably already exists a way to circumvent this internal sealing done by a Nen contract. And knowing Togashi, it's very likely that finding the solution will have some consequence for Gon. He wouldn't let Nen contracts be easily broken, because that would render the entire power system of the manga meaningless. In any case, we have evidence that Gon's power can be recovered, but we still don't know exactly how this will happen. Let's go! The return of Gon Freeksis' special abilities, called Nen, is something all Hunter x Hunter fans are eagerly awaiting. As Gon is the main character who has been with us for much of the story, it's natural that many people want to see him back, strong and skilled as before. When he used his Nen, Gon demonstrated great potential and was very promising. But if he regains his powers, it won't happen without significant changes, both in how he feels and in his body. After all, he endured a lot of pain and made great sacrifices. Would he still be the same brave and energetic boy, or would these experiences profoundly change him? From the beginning, Gon has been driven by great curiosity and a strong desire to find his father, Ging Freeks. He always viewed the world in a very pure and optimistic way, believing that people were good and that he could overcome any challenge in his path. But all of this changed when he had to sacrifice his Nen to defeat a very powerful enemy, Neferpitou. That was the moment Gon first realized how heavy and painful his choices could be. If Gon manages to recover his Nen abilities, it's hard to imagine he'll return to being the carefree boy everyone knew. The trauma of almost losing his life and the regret of risking so much for revenge will likely change him. He might become a more thoughtful person who reflects more on his decisions, perhaps even more cautious. His former impulsive attitude, where he acted without much thought, might be replaced by a more strategic and calculated approach, similar to his friends Killua or Kurapika, who already understand better the consequences of their actions. Discussing Gon's return to using Nen also prompts us to imagine many interesting possibilities for his body. Remember when Gon transformed into an adult during the fight against Pitou? He became immensely powerful, much stronger than anyone could have imagined. But he paid a very high price for it, severely injuring his body in the process. If he uses Nen again, his body may not be the same as before. He could bear marks from that transformation, such as wounds that never fully healed, or even new difficulties that didn't exist before. On the other hand, there's also the chance that his recovery could make him stronger than ever. If Gon resumes using Nen, he will have learned much about what his body can endure. This means instead of making impulsive and risky decisions, he might seek ways to improve without endangering his life. He could start learning new Nen techniques and training more, but this time with more care and control over what he does with his body. The harrowing experience of almost losing his body might change Gon's approach to training. He might begin focusing not only on becoming strong, but also on increasing his endurance, speed, and intelligence in battles. This would make him a much more well-rounded fighter who could confront enemies in a smarter way, without always relying on radical transformations or risking dangerous sacrifices. After everything, Gon might start using Nen in a smarter way, focusing on strategies and better control of his powers, rather than just brute strength. Another important point to consider is how Gon will handle Nen after that dangerous experience where he made a contract with his Nen power. When Gon returns, it's likely he will start using his abilities more cautiously. Before, Gon didn't think twice about using Nen in intense training or battles. But now he may look at this power with some fear. This doesn't mean he'll stop fighting or using Nen, but he'll probably think carefully before making decisions, understanding better what could happen. This new way of thinking might also change how Gon relates to other friends who use Nen. He might become more understanding and empathetic towards those who have also made significant sacrifices, like he did. Who knows, Gon might even become a teacher to new characters learning to use Nen, sharing his wisdom. And of course, he could assist his friends Kurapika, Killua, and Leorio in their own adventures. Now with the experience of someone who came close to self-destruction, but managed to rise and move forward. This would make Gon not only stronger, but also wiser and more careful. Now, I would like to know what you all think about this. Hunters, that was our video for today. Leave a like if you enjoyed our video, subscribe to the channel as it is still very new, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then.